Welcome to Esoteric Talk, where we cover everything within the realm of spiritual mystery. Join me, astrologer, psychic medium, and frequency healer, Lydia Chiarenza.
And me, Rachel Talia, hypnotherapist, intuitive, and energy practitioner, as we uncover what lies beneath in today's episode of Esoteric Talk with AstroGnosis, hypnotherapy, and astrology.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 of Esoteric Talk. In today's episode, we outline the astrological influence of the moon. We went into talking about things such as the moon signs and elements, the subconscious influence of the moon, and how to work with the energy from the standpoint of manifestation. We also gave a brief overview of what's going on in the sky currently via transit and what to expect into the weekend. So with that being said, let's hand it over to Rachel.
Welcome to our 4th show. This is so exciting. How are you feeling today, Lydia?
I'm feeling okay. I've had a lot of coffee. I am ready to talk about the moon today and some current astrology as well.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, for those that don't know about the moon and astrology, what does it represent?
The moon. We're looking at the feminine influences on the upbringing, typically until about the age of 5. But even cooler, it's your subconscious emotional influences as well. Maternal energy. So we're looking at either maternal figures as in, i.e. the mother, or even feminine figures in your life and your upbringing, feminine family members, women.
So when people that know basic astrology, they know their sun sign. When you introduce them to the moon, how much does that weight in the personality? I mean, how much importance should somebody put into understanding and knowing their moon in their own natal chart?
Oh my gosh. The moon is just as influential, in my opinion, personally, as the sun. They're both luminaries. They're both highly prominent figures in your life. And the moon is going to show you your emotional nature. It's going to show you your subconscious drives. It's going to show a lot that the sun does not provide.
Yeah, so I've heard the moon teaches the sun how to be in this world. It's the secret to our happiness. So by gaining an understanding in that, into our emotional nature, and then into the emotional nature of those that we are intimate with, our family, our friends, we gain so much understanding on how they are, their secret desires and urges, and even how they may react to certain emotional stimuli.
Oh yeah, I think one of the coolest things, as some of you may know, me and Rachel are Scorpio Moons, which places our moon sign in fall. And what that means ultimately is that our emotional nurturing is a little bit different. So is Capricorn. Capricorn is in detriment, the Capricorn moon. But I feel like when I learned about the moon sign in astrology way back when, it made so much sense to me as to why so many people experience emotion on such a vast scale.
Oh, yeah, it's so different. I mean, let's go into the elements. So in astrology, we have air, fire, water, and earth that, the planets are going to be in, or the signs are in. So there's somebody that has a water moon is going to be very different than an air moon or a fire moon or an earth moon. I mean, obviously there's other aspects that can add to it, another placement in the chart. But like even just breaking it down from an element, an air moon versus a water, fire, or earth, without even considering the other aspects in the chart, what would you have to say about that?
So when it comes to the different elements for the moon, like we have a water moon who is highly expressive from a traditional kind of emotional standpoint, but also largely intuitively. These are the people that really need to connect with feeling with other people. While if we have an air moon person. We have somebody who's highly intellectual in relation to their emotions. They need to be able to express and vocalize and connect kind of mentally with other people. Often fire moons. I laugh because they're the funniest to me to observe as a water moon person. But they're highly action oriented kind of in their emotions. They need to take action in order to expel or express. Sagittarius moon, you're going to see somebody that, like, in the act of expressing emotion is very stompy, in my opinion. Aries, highly independent. And then we have an earth moon who is very grounded and very stable emotionally. Taurus moon is exalted because they're said to express emotion in the most grounded and kind of comfortable manner. It's vastly different depending on the element. That alone will tell you so much about your emotional nature in comparison to others.
Yeah, and the moon changes signs every 2.5 days, give or take a few hours, right? So with water moons, we're referring to Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. With air, Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra. With fire, it's Leo, Aries, Sagittarius, and Earth, Virgo, Capricorn, and Taurus. So just even breaking them down by the element, they're going to need certain things. It's really interesting when you're comparing a chart with somebody else, even just their emotional natures, how they interact, if they're supportive or if they're in a more difficult aspect to each other. It's just kind of learning how to even maybe strengthen some of those qualities within yourself, maybe. What do you think? Like when you're in a relationship with somebody that has a moon that's a different element.
I mean, a lot of times I feel like moons in different elements are really helpful for each other, as long as it's not adverse. But even then, you can still make a relationship work. I know as a water moon person, I attract a lot more to earth moons because they make me feel a lot more stable. Whereas fire moon people, like, they can be too much for me as a water moon person. It's all about kind of, I mean, the entire chart really needs to be taken into consideration, but you can also see kind of how certain people's emotional energy will either strengthen you or will dull you, definitely.
Yeah, and okay, so with the moon, because it's also our inner child, and it's these first 5 or 7 years of our life, how important do you think it is as a parent to understand your child's moon sign or how to work with them? Have you noticed that even with your own son?
Oh my gosh, that's one of the first things that I go into when I am reading a chart for a child, because I do children's astrology. I go into the moon and I go into explaining what it is that that child needs kind of from a nurturing standpoint. But I also make it very apparent, because it's often the mother that does come to me for these readings, that you can't mess this up. You're already written in stone there for this kid. You're giving them exactly what it is that they need, and they have their own unique path kind of to transverse at the same time. So even the most complicated lunar aspects, it's not something that you should necessarily blame yourself for. It's a part of who they are. But yes, it's so important. You can learn so much from understanding the moon sign. My own son is a Leo moon. He's loud, he's vibrant, he's colorful, he's creative. And I just knowing that about him has been so incredible, because I know that I can support those things within him largely just by being myself.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because if you go on the internet and you look at different descriptions or definitions, some of it are a little bit more positive, some are more negative. It's really important to really thoroughly research it and understand that it's not black and white. Like, my son is 19 and he has an Aquarius moon. And you read those descriptions and sometimes they seem like, oh, the mother was detached and aloof, and that's not the case at all. But was I very innovative and very forward thinking with him and had deep conversations with him, or just conversations that were more analytical? Yes, definitely. But it didn't mean I didn't nurture him. It's just, plus there's other aspects to it. So it's really important that it's not like a black and white thing as well.
Oh, no, definitely. It's so important. That's like always the thing that I stress to parents in children's readings is to really consider yourself and to not be too overly critical on yourself. Obviously, be realistic about things, but don't be beating yourself up over things. This is your child. This is what they're here to experience. Just like you, they will have their own struggles. They will have their own path to follow ultimately. And the best that we can do is support them. And yes, the moon is very big in all of that. And I love Aquarius moon people, just so you know. My son is an 11th house Leo moon. So I guess I kind of understand that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to even with ourselves with the moon, us as Scorpio moons, you said it was in detriment. So for those that don't understand what detriment means or fall, we describe what Capricorn moon, what does that mean?
So the moon in fall is going to show a lunar sign that has a harder time expressing itself in a way that is traditionally deemed as emotional. And for Scorpio, it's largely due to the fact that we are masculine in nature. Our emotional nature is masculine. We're attracted to intensity. We're attracted to the things that go bump in the night, and that can scare people. Detriment, we're seeing also a conflicting kind of emotional nature. Capricorn in general, if you know a Capricorn moon person, they're not the kind of person that necessarily is easy to nurture. They're somebody that has to set kind of a plan of action for themselves and to learn how to get themselves out of the karmic situations that they're often thrust into as well. And that is seen with the relationship with their mother too. Often with Capricorn, you see a mother that was a little bit colder, or even somebody who was a little bit more irresponsible in nature, actually.
So it's not like when somebody hears, okay, so Scorpio's in fall, Capricorn's in detriment. But so regardless, right? It's not that it's labeled this, that means your emotional nature is screwed. It just means you have to work a little bit more different. Like as a Scorpio, like we've had to learn how to process our emotions and how to not react, just like somebody with an Aries moon, right? Like they could have a temper or they could explode. Or
yes.
Leo.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, yeah, we're not broken forever. It's just that we express differently. And there's also an emphasis there, I know, with the moon and fall on people who have had to learn to nurture themselves as well, as opposed to gaining that nurturing kind of from the outside world, because it is such intense energy. It's harder for other people to kind of fill that for us.
Would you say that, for us, like having to be comfortable even showing our emotions is something like we tend to hide them from people because of that?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's funny with people like you and I who have our moon in our first house, because even if we try to hide it, it's not like people can't see it on us. I mean, they can't, because Scorpio is like a master magician in relation to this. But still, if you look hard enough at our face, like you can see how we're feeling in some regard.
Oh my God, it's on my eyes. Even if I try, it's so uncomfortable. Yeah, Scorpio moon does not want people to see it. And then when it's conjunct your ascendant, it's like it's right here. So it's like, well, I don't really care if you don't want to see it. They're going to see it. That's the feeling.
Oh, I know. I can feel it well up in my eyes when I get really emotional and I'm trying to like not express it to the people around me. Like, I yes, definitely all in the eyes.
That's why we wear sunglasses.
We wear them not only at night.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about the houses. Go a little detail about having, general maybe about the moon in the house, in each house, and how that would affect a personality or reflect in a personality.
I think one of the easiest ways to kind of summarize that, hopefully in as few words as possible, is to consider that each house is ruled by a zodiac sign. So somebody with the moon in the first house, you're seeing somebody who does wear their emotions on their face, on their physical body. But they also can have a strong Cancer-like kind of vibe to them. Move on to the second house, we're seeing the house is ruled by Taurus. So we're seeing regardless of what their moon sign might be, they're being nurtured by security, by financial security, by material kind of comfort. The third house, the house of Gemini, they're going to have more of a Gemini-like flavor to their emotional nature. They're going to be somebody that needs to communicate, to speak on it. Fourth house moon, again, regardless of the sign, we're going to see somebody with more of a Cancer-like feel to them. Their emotions are going to be very connected to their home, to their roots, to where they came from. It's the house of the moon. Fifth house moon, similar to Leo, its ruler. We're going to see somebody that's creative and expressive and needs to do that from an emotional standpoint. A sixth house moon, we're seeing the house of Virgo, somebody who is service-oriented, somebody that when under emotional distress might need that service as well from other people, and finds service-related stuff nurturing, both being of service as well as the latter. A seventh house moon, we're seeing somebody who's nurtured by their partner, somebody who finds partnership nurturing, and not only just relationship style stuff. Seventh house moons are just nurtured kind of by the other. Eighth house moon, the house of Scorpio. We're seeing somebody with an intense emotional nature, more similar to a Scorpio moon, somebody who has experienced a decent bit of regeneration and rebirth, definitely. A ninth house moon, we're seeing more of a Sagittarius feeling, with that being the ruler of the ninth. Somebody who is expansive and expressive and happy-go-lucky, very action-oriented as well in relation to their moon. When they are upset, their best bet is to find faith, ultimately. 10th house moon, we're seeing the house of Capricorn, more similar to a Capricorn moon, nurtured by achievement, nurtured by the climb, nurtured by earthly ascension. 11th house moon, more similar to Aquarius. We're seeing somebody who is nurtured by their friends, somebody who's nurtured by the all, by the whole, by humanitarianism. And then a 12th house moon, similar to Pisces, somebody who is highly, highly intuitive and compassionate and sensitive completely. And yeah, I think that's probably the easiest way to kind of go about explaining how they correlate.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think for those that are new into astrology or haven't really looked into it, so you get your natal chart, and a good way to start is by looking at your sun, your moon, and your rising sign. And even just understanding those three, I think you get a good insight into yourself and other people.
No, yeah, definitely. I agree that those three are a wonderful starting point. I feel like another thing that's really, really helpful is for people who experience issues kind of an emotional nature to be able to understand their moon, because you're going to understand kind of who you are. You're going to understand why it is that you react a certain way in certain emotional situations. And really, the beauty of astrology is the fact that it all correlates to know thyself. If you know yourself, you are one step ahead of the crowd, definitely.
Yeah, you're working with this archetypal energy that's reflected in your personality. And I think for some that have more of an intense emotional nature, whether their moon is in whatever sign but aspecting Pluto, or there's this constant feeling of depression and it's aspecting Saturn, or whatever it is, by gaining that understanding about yourself, then maybe you can come to some acceptance. Because I think, you know, a lot of times our emotions are judged, or we are in family dynamics where you're not allowed to express it, or you're not heard. And so all that wounding is there, and you're carrying it with you as an adult, and you don't even know why. And when you gain that understanding, then you can find your way out of it, or how to work with it, when you understand that that's a part of your instinctual nature.
Yeah, I feel like personally awareness is absolutely everything. Like just having that awareness and even understanding where it comes from. I mean, maybe that goes back to being a Scorpio moon, but understanding the root cause of something is key, in my opinion. With that, you can go in there and work with that root, work through it, transform, rebirth. You can fix that within you. You're not necessarily, I mean, just because you were born with this moon sign or you have these aspects, it's not like those are there to hinder you. It's not a label that's being placed on you. That should be invigorating. It should be something that motivates you to become the best version of yourself.
Yeah, I was listening to a evolutionary astrology podcast, and they were talking about, the North Node and South Node, and the moon is the way to the North Node. Like it's the present. So the South is the past, the moon's the present, and then, moving towards your North Node and how that can support you in your North Node. So with, your life purpose or life direction for this lifetime. So, it's definitely not there to hinder you, but it's also good too with understanding other people. If you have a parent that was constantly critical or self-critical or just always wanted to fix things, and then you find out, oh, my mom has moon in Virgo, and you learn a little bit about that archetype, and obviously there's so many positive things about a moon in Virgo, but then, just like every sign, there's always, the downfall of them as well. And, especially if it was wounding, you can understand, well, of course, that's how they viewed life. And it's not to excuse it, but you can understand why and maybe not take things so personal.
No, yes, 100%, definitely. I mean, you can see so much about your maternal influences just by learning about your moon. And the aspects that are being made, you see the elements of your maternal influence. Again, they're like subconscious nature themselves. It's insane how much it can show you.
Have you noticed that when you do family charts that there seems to be similar aspects or patterns? I've noticed it specifically with my family. We got the moon Uranus aspect. I think like my mom, my brother, myself, my son, so it's like, it's really interesting when you look at families that a lot of these patterns follow through the generations.
Oh yeah, definitely. You can note so much ancestral karma by looking at the way that families interact together ultimately. And you can even see so much more beyond that. Like you can see other planets or other aspects that are generational as well and how that influences everything too.
Well, that is a wonderful, illuminating, brief discussion about the moon. I mean, there's so much you could go into. I mean, you could go into transiting moon. Well, real quick. Okay, so with transiting moon, we have, if it changes signs every 2.5 days, and the moon's constantly changing signs, how would you look at that for somebody in their chart on how the transiting moon would affect them and in their life?
So whenever the moon transits a certain area of the chart, you're being brought kind of to that area from an emotional perspective. But even more, when we look at the moon by transit, we're looking at the public. The moon is the public. And so we're seeing the emotional kind of unconscious of the public, not just yourself, unless the moon is aspecting something within your chart, like personal planet, something like that. But we're actually seeing like the general emotional energy for the day and kind of where it's being highlighted within your own natal chart. You can learn so much, especially if you're somebody with strong Cancer energy, strong lunar energy within your natal chart, about energy, emotional energy, just by following the moon. And it's one of the easiest ones to kind of become intimately connected to the signs via. Like if you want to learn about zodiac signs, follow the moon and see how it interacts kind of on a day-to-day basis, because it's the quickest. You're going to within a month period, you can learn about all the zodiac signs and kind of how they interact from a collective perspective by viewing the moon.
Yeah, and it's just interesting how, depending on what's aspecting the moon, what other planets are transiting the moon, how you can collectively feel similar to other people, and other people report, like, man, today was rough, what was going on? And of course, a lot of it also has to do with the phases, waxing, waning, new, full, all that. But if you're actually paying attention, you'll and speak to other people, it's kind of like there's like a feeling or a vibe in the air that other people pick up on. And I think especially for us with it on our ascendant, I mean, it's kind of like we feel it before it even happens. It's just kind of like in the air, and you get that feeling. But it's definitely really interesting to pay attention to.
No, yeah, completely. So speaking of moon phases, we did kind of want to go in and talk about manifestation via the moon, because Rachel and I host these events via the new and the full moon, and kind of what that involves, what the manifestation process is from the new moon to the full moon, which is 6-month periods ultimately.
So, okay, so when we do our events, and we just did the new moon in Leo, what does a new moon mean for someone that doesn't know?
The new moon is a period of beginnings, ultimately. Although you should, personally, I would set intentions via the new and the full moon cycles. The new moon is when you begin. It's when you plant the seed of intent, and it ushers in, again, this brand new 6-month period. So yesterday was a new moon in Leo, and the period for that will be done in January, I do believe. So within these next 6 months, that's why when you watch those kind of intentions actualize.
So if somebody, and what do you mean intention? So if somebody wants to create something for themselves, would they pay attention to where Leo is in their chart? Like, oh, I have Leo in the 9th house. So does that mean you focus just on that area of topics, or is it just in general?
That is a way to definitely really zoom in and ensure that you are kind of manifesting in your purest intent. But you don't necessarily have to follow it that way. They say when you set intentions via the new moon or full moon cycle, to not set any more than 10, because it can be hard kind of to ensure that they are kind of manifesting before you. It's a lot to focus on, even though you don't focus when you set intentions. You set them, you burn your intentions, you release them to the universe, you forget about them. It's the easiest way to do it. But yeah, it is a little bit easier to focus on the sign or the element of the sign itself and kind of what it is that you want to be bringing into actualization. So for something like Leo, we're looking at creativity, we're looking at romance, we're looking at confidence, willpower, childlike energy, heart-centered energy.
Excellent. So, and then when it's a full moon, what are people wanting to do?
By the full moon, you are at the point of actualization. It's the most fertile time. It's when the water rises ultimately to the earth and into plants. I'm referencing this because the way that I think of it is like planting a seed and waiting for that crop cycle to actualize, which is actually when the moon cycles did kind of begin to be used via manifestation. This dates back all the way to ancient Babylonia when people were doing this for their crop cycles. So via the full moon, we are actualizing. We are bringing towards us what it is that we set into action 6 months prior. And if you do this consciously with awareness, it becomes a lot easier to really bring those things to yourself. Most people do this regardless. Most people start things during new moon phases without even knowing that they're doing so and actualize them by the full. The conscious awareness element really kind of allows you to take control of that situation yourself.
So because we do these events and we have these conversations with our participants in our group chats, what have you noticed either within yourself or even with your clients that they've shared with you about doing these type of manifestation focused on the new and full moon?
I've heard all kinds of stuff being actualized by people. The manifesting with the moon is a little bit of a longer of a manifestation cycle. So a lot of people, especially in a consumer-driven world where we are really wanting things to be immediate and instant, aren't as drawn to this kind of cycle of manifestation. But I've seen so many things actualize. I've seen people who have moved into new houses. I've seen people who've got pregnant. I've seen people who have changed really strong internal things about themselves, like self-confidence and issues that they've experienced via their emotions. It's really so vast. You can bring so much to yourself. It's more about, again, just allowing yourself to do this with conscious awareness.
Yes, definitely. And I know that you would do these little, where you'd write to yourself, your future self, certain things and line them up sometimes with the moon phases. So, if you could do journal exercises and just even putting more conscious awareness into what you want to bring or resolve in your life. What do you want to let go of during the full moon? What do you want to bring in? What do you want to create? Whether some people are going to see this as like, oh, this is too woo-woo. I don't know. I mean, it's just giving yourself an opportunity to focus your attention on bringing to yourself things that would be fulfilling and believing in some sort of magic in this world, some sort of, that there's something out there that we're able to tap into to live more fulfilling and consciously aware lives. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I think you know where I'm going with that.
Oh, no, yeah, I definitely understand to some people this is far-fetched, but in my opinion, it kind of correlates to, what is that quote about, if you don't believe in magic, you'll never experience it. Like, you want to be one of those people that doesn't believe, that's completely cool, but you're not going to stop me from believing in it, because I've seen it way too many times.
Yeah, the more you pay attention, the more it becomes aware in your consciousness, and life is just a little bit more fun. And given all this crap that's going on in this world, can't we use a little bit of that?
Oh, definitely. I feel like we need that. That's Neptune and Pisces' job, right? Is to show us that there is some wonder and there is some behind the scenes stuff going on that we're not aware of, that we can correlate to some sort of higher existence.
Yeah, and the moon is our intuition, so it's great to tap into that. And the more you do so, the more it becomes available to you. But given that we were going to discuss some of the current astrology that's affecting us, do you want to go with that now?
Sure. Hopefully that was a good little rundown of the moon. So currently we have the sun conjunct Mercury. And right now I do believe Mercury is at 29. But by the time that we release this, Mercury will be in Virgo. Are you ready, Rachel?
Hey, it'll hit my MC, so it'll be good for the beginning at least.
I really offended somebody by my comment that I made on Twitter about Susan and needing to get her life together. I was being completely sarcastic, but then I remembered Lydia, Virgo season is coming. Mercury is in Virgo. People are going to be critical. They're going to analyze the things that you say. They're going to analyze your grammar. They're going to correct you. I don't know. I guess, what can we do, right? We need this in some regard.
Well, yeah, because there is a desire to make things better, to improve, to be the healer, to be the helper, and it's just, I think, when that energy isn't used to the highest good, just like, somebody can say Scorpios are the worst, or so it's just kind of like that. I think with Virgo, there is that potential for criticism and self-critical and critical of others, but then there is that desire to help and to heal. And given though Mars and Aries, how is that going? Is that going to impact that in any way, or what do you think with
Mars
that?
and Aries will not impact the Virgo Mercury energy, but Mars and Aries is still going to be doing a number on us for a while. Right now we're working with the final square of the Capricorn cardinal clusterfuck of fun that we have been dealing with. We're dealing with the square to Saturn, which is going to be exact, to believe 8/24, so next Monday, but we're going to be feeling that into the weekend, definitely. And it could feel somber. It could feel like we are trying to go up a hill and we're being knocked down constantly in the process.
So, okay, so yeah, so Saturn gives that feeling, that maybe feeling of depression or feeling limitation. So would the goal then be, how can I feel this or experience this and still know that things are going to be okay, or that this is temporary, or that it's going to pass, or that it's going to bring up in you something that you need to look at so that you can resolve or heal or let go of?
Yeah, I think that goes back to what you and I always talk about, which is conscious awareness in the moment when it comes to transitory energy. Understanding that this is just a transitory period, that this too will pass, that we will make our way through this. But when it does come to Mars and Aries, this is going to be a battle that we are going to be facing for a while, these cardinal squares, because we're dealing with Mars going retrograde in September, and Mars remains in Aries all the way until January. These cardinal squares are going to keep pushing us completely. There's an initiation in the air that's being posed via the Grand Cardinal Cross this year, ultimately.
And basically, is it, what do we need to let go of? What do we value? What do we need to fight for? What would you say some of the themes would be?
When we're dealing with, I guess if I'm going to consider like a Grand Cardinal Cross, because we're going to be approaching Libra season as well, and that one's going to highlight that entire axis. But when we're dealing with Aries and Capricorn energy, we're dealing with Aries the warrior, Aries the soldier, ultimately action-oriented, independent, fighter, aggressive energy, going up against Capricorn, which is, again, the big guy. It's karma, it's limitation, it is the people in charge. And so to kind of work through that with Mars being so aggressive and impulsive, it's about learning kind of what you might need to do in order to achieve in a way. And sometimes that might involve having to tame that independent warrior side of yourself a little bit and to potentially follow the rules when you might not want to.
Would it also be looking at the rules that are no longer serving the collective? And, there's certain structures and certain mentalities that have to be destroyed, and we need that fiery energy to push through and to have the courage, because Aries is about courage and strength too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you are 100% accurate about that too, especially with these retrograde periods. Again, Mars is going retrograde. We have Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter retrograde, but moving direct in September, not Pluto, but Jupiter and Saturn will be. Yeah, I think that's a major, approaching that from the standpoint of duality. There's both sides to that coin, where there are certain facets of what is going on in the world that are not okay anymore, that need to change, definitely. But that's where we need that balance of Libra to be able to understand when we might need to step back and when we might need to step forward.
Right, and that it's not just about us, that there is others, there's a collective, that we need to be united and not so divided, and to find that in our communities, with our friends, with our families, and to do what we have to do to make it through these difficult times, to show our strength, to have courage, but also to unite with people and support each other. But what about Uranus? Uranus also went retrograde on the 15th. So that's in Taurus. So what would that bring?
That one's going to be interesting, I feel. Uranus and Taurus retrograde. We're looking at the sign that rules over the banking systems. We're looking at monetary. We're looking at financial. We're looking at physical security, like literal security, things, our belongings, as well as very, very largely our self-worth. And I feel like that's what's going to be highlighted, while Uranus is RX for the next, it goes direct in January as well, is what self-worth actually means to us and how far we will go kind of for that. How much revolution will allow into our lives and how much change in order to kind of embrace our worth. And our worth is shifting. It's evolving. It's a revolution of self-worth.
So excited as an early degree Scorpio sun. I'm so excited.
Right? It has been chaos. I agree. With my moon at 7 degrees, Uranus opposite my moon is like, what was that?
Yeah, this is good. This is good. It's for transformation and rebirth and all that great stuff.
Yeah, it's great. Let's bring Saturn in there and let it square that as well.
Yeah, all right. Aries, all right. We're good. We can do this. I mean, it's like we chose. This is my decision. We chose to be here at this time. So by golly, we better show up and do our best to know who we are in our core. And that means facing whatever comes up and just recognizing that everything passes, everything has their purpose, and we are a hell of a lot stronger than we give ourselves credit for. And so we just have to take things day by day and find our grounding, find the little things that we love and appreciate, find the people that we can connect to, and find our supports to work through this, but that we will get through it stronger, with more awareness and more consciousness if that's our intention. And we can go unconscious and just get drunk all the time, but that's not going to do any good. So, it really is important that we take this opportunity and this intensity, because we do the most spiritual growth anyway during the most difficult times of our lives. So let's use it, and hopefully it's not all difficult. There will be some good aspects. There will be some good times. But it's duality. There's always good with bad, and and it's all perceptive, obviously, because there's always a higher good that we're not aware of.
There was like a couple weeks there where I was like really, really stressed out, and I kept hearing diamonds are formed under pressure. Diamonds are formed under pressure. I'm like, shut up! I don't want to hear any more of it. But it's true, and that's something that I feel is like going to really be brought into awareness while the United States is experiencing their Pluto return. Because, everybody's feeling it right now. The funny thing to me about fixed energy in general, we're going to label all of them, but largely what I've seen from Aquarius influenced people as well as Scorpio influenced people is that we're not surprised. It's not like what's going on in the world is like a surprise to us. Like there's certain people who are out there and they're like, oh my God, did you hear about this? And it's like, were you really surprised about that? Like it's been speculated for how long that this could potentially be going on. Like it's just being brought out into the open in order for us to clear it and fix the issues that lie at the root of our society ills.
It's time for rebirth with U.S. Pluto Saturn return. Time to bring it up to surface. We got to look at the ugly. We got to look at the things that aren't serving everybody. We got to look at the stuff that needs to be let go of. And us fixed energy people have to also be okay with letting go, even though that goes against our nature.
Exactly. Yes. Well, one thing that is good, I wanted to mention this as well. The Venus Chiron square is now fading. It was exact last weekend. Made a lot of people feel super emotional, brought out a lot of headaches as well because we're dealing with Chiron and Aries. Luckily, we're getting like a Chiron free pass until Libra season. So the healing part, like we can take a break and a breather on that.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be good. If you look at the past few years astrologically, I still feel like this is bad, but it's not like 2016, 2017 bad or 2018 bad. So I feel like, this is all right. Pluto and Saturn in January conjunction, we knew it was going to bring up some stuff, and boy, did it. But I think that, we kind of have been building up to this, and I think we're a lot stronger now than we were a few years ago.
I was going to say that even though I don't like working with light worker symbolism. There's something about it that just annoys me. I don't like people saying that they have all the answers. I don't believe anybody has all the answers. But what I can say is that I very strongly believe that there are people who are here right now and they're here for this. And a lot of those people were already being prepared for this up until this moment. We knew something was coming. Why else were we being pushed to do all the things that we were? So I think for a lot of us, even though this is a chaotic time, a lot of very spiritually aware, very spiritually awake and enlightened people who are kind of gravitating towards that arena of waking up, we knew something was coming somewhere. We followed the signs, or we wouldn't be here talking about this right now.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so important to understand our shadow. I mean, I love Carl Jung's work. I love the shadow work. You it's not all about light. It's not all about rainbows and butterflies. Like, we need to look at the parts of ourselves that are unhealthy, the parts that we push away, the parts that we project onto people, and you'll know what it is because it shows up in your face over and over again. And that's what we have to work through. And whatever is going on in the whole collectively, we got to also address, how are we in some way, on some level, doing that to ourselves or others? And it may not look the same, but there's still something that could be the core that's very similar that we're actually doing. So that's part of this process as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's all about raising collective vibration in general, and going up a level, going up a scale, moving into 5D potentially.
Yes. So, I think, on a lighter note, just kidding. No, but Venus is in Cancer right now, right? So that's lovely. That's that's a nice aspect, a nice position for Venus to be in, right?
Yeah, definitely. I was actually going to point out the fact that this weekend we have on Saturday. Saturday holds the potential for magic, because Saturday comes bearing a conjunction to the sun from Regulus. And while the sun is conjunct Regulus, we have Venus conjunct Sirius. So there's like some magic potentially that we could witness this weekend. Regulus is like fame and honors and riches, and Sirius is all about, very similar energy at that. It's the nature of Mars and Jupiter. I have a good feeling about Saturday. So let's highlight Saturday as being a good day out of all of this chaos, with Venus and Cancer's influence as well.
Maybe we should do a hypnosis recording for this event, maybe.
Maybe we should. It might be a good time for it, definitely.
Yeah, let's maybe do a little event for this, Sirius, Regulus aspecting.
Yeah, I like that idea. Rachel, we definitely should.
All right, well, I enjoyed our discussion. There's, like I said, there's so much more that we could talk about with the moon. This is just the surface, but, just gives people an idea for those that are starting out or looking into this or curious, what exactly that is. So whenever someone's like, not all astrology signs are the same. No, but did you know about your moon sign? No, you did not. So you can go there too.
No, definitely. Yes, I agree completely. The moon can illuminate so much. That's what it does. Have you seen it in the sky? That's what it does at night. It illuminates. It shows you what's hidden in the darkness, i.e. your subconscious mind.
Exactly. And on a full moon, they do report in hospitals that there's an increase, and disturbances and stuff. So, there's more to it than meets the eye.
I would say if people had a hard time believing that the moon, or that there are actually lunar influences, spend a month tracking it and then get back to me and tell me you don't notice anything. Do it. I dare you.
Oh, I know. Exactly. And I think in the future we could, talk about the rising signs and Venus and Mercury in a chart and, kind of break it down little by little. And I think that would be a good way to introduce more people into this lovely language and esoteric world of astrology.
I agree. We hope you enjoyed our episode today on the moon, and please follow us. We come back every Thursday with a brand new topic or a brand new interview to present you with.
Well, it was lovely speaking to you, Lydia, and thank you all for joining us. We will see you next week. Well, not see you. We will talk to you next week.
Over and